Imagine a place where your weekend itinerary makes absolutely no chronological sense.
Okay.
Like you wake up and you walk the sweeping, vaulted stone halls of a building that, well, you'd probably recognize from Hogwarts.
Oh, right, yeah.
And then later that afternoon, you take a seat to listen to a choral performance at literally the world's oldest classical music festival.
Okay.
But then the very next morning, you head down to this bustling Sunday market to, I don't know, haggle over the price of a used camper van.
It sounds like 3 totally different vacations placed together by like a faulty travel agency algorithm.
Yeah, exactly. That was my very first thought looking at this stack of sources. We've got official 2026 visitor guides. We have summer event calendars and historical archives. And they're all centered entirely on the city of Gloucester over England. And the mission for us on this deep dive today is to really figure out the mechanics of this very specific urban puzzle. Like, how does a city manage to balance 1,300-year-old architectural and musical history with a thriving, noisy, modern pulse?
Yeah, without turning into, a sterile museum on one hand.
Right, or a historically bankrupt theme park on the other.
Well, when you cross-reference the 2026 visitor data with the historical archives, you realize Gloucester is operating on a completely different model of heritage.
How so?
Well, most cities treat their history as fragile. They cordon it off. You look at it from a designated distance.
Yeah, behind a velvet rope.
Exactly. But Gloucester uses its ancient stones as load-bearing infrastructure for modern civic life. Like the city doesn't just display its past. It forces you to actively interact with it just to go about your day.
Right, and the gravitational center of that interaction seems to be Gloucester Cathedral. The visitor guide describes it as a masterpiece in stone, which honestly almost undersells it.
It does.
I mean, we are talking about a site that has seen continuous worship for over 1,300 years.
Yeah, 13 centuries of uninterrupted human presence in one localized space is just a staggering data point.
It really is.
But to understand why the cathedral functions the way it does today, we actually have to look at the engineering of the space itself.
Okay, let's unpack this, because it's famous for its majestic great east window and, its intricately carved cloisters.
Right, which filmmakers constantly use for productions, right? Like Harry Potter, Doctor Who, Wolf Hall.
Yeah, because the architecture just instantly communicates that sense of ancient authority.
It does. But the visual architecture is really only half the story. The physical space was actually engineered to manipulate sound.
Wait, engineered to manipulate sound?
Yes.
I assumed cathedrals were just big stone boxes that happened to be echoey because, they didn't have drywall or carpets to absorb the noise.
No, it's much more deliberate than that. The vaulted ceilings, the specific placement of the choir, the density of the stone, they were all constructed to serve as massive passive acoustic amplifiers.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because before electronic amplification, if you wanted the human voice to carry a sense of, divine majesty to hundreds of people simultaneously, you had to basically build the instrument around the singer.
I never thought about it like that.
Right. The entire building is essentially a giant resonant chamber. It's designed to sustain choral notes, which creates this sound delay that blends multiple voices into a single, just overwhelming wall of harmony.
So the cathedral itself is actually an instrument.
Yes.
Which, that makes total sense of the next major piece of our puzzle here in the sources, which is the Three Choirs Festival.
Right.
The archives highlight this as the oldest and longest running classical music festival in the world. It was formally established by 1715, and it rotates between Gloucester, Worcester, and Hereford. And looking at the origins, it reads almost like a historical touring circuit for like an indie rock band.
Yeah.
Just rival cathedral choirs packing up their sheet music and, going on the road.
That comparison holds up surprisingly well, actually, because it began as informal, collaborative gatherings of local music societies.
Oh, right.
The choirs from those 3 distinct cathedrals recognized that by pooling their vocal resources together, they could perform much larger, much more complex works than they ever could individually.
That makes a lot of sense. And they premiered pieces by absolute titans of music.
Oh, absolutely.
Edward Elgar, Ralph Vaughan Williams, Hubert Parry. In fact, didn't Vaughan Williams premiere his Fantasia on a theme by Thomas Tallis at the Gloucester Cathedral in 1910?
He did, yeah.
And was that specifically because of those acoustics you just mentioned?
what's fascinating here is he essentially wrote the piece to exploit the specific acoustic delay of Gloucester's stone architecture.
Wait, he wrote it for the building?
Yes. He placed a secondary, smaller string orchestra further back in the cathedral.
Oh, that's wild.
Right, so their sound would reach the audience a fraction of a second later, which created a natural echo effect.
Wow.
He wasn't just writing music to be played in the building, he was literally writing music for the building's physical properties.
That is incredible. But looking at the timeline, 1715 to 2026 is a massive span.
It's huge.
I mean, they had royal patronage from King George III in 1788 all the way to King Charles III today.
Yeah.
And I'm just trying to understand the mechanics of that survival.
Right.
How does a regional choral meetup survive over 3 centuries?
Yeah.
Like, World War I shuts them down for 6 years.
Yeah.
World War II shuts them down for another 6.
Well, the mechanism of their survival, it really comes down to social utility.
Social utility.
Yeah. During those wartime shutdowns, the festival didn't die because the underlying social infrastructure, the church, the local patrons, the community trusts,
Right.
they viewed the music not as a luxury, but as something essential to their cultural identity and their morale.
Oh, I see.
So when the external threats lifted, the funding and the desire were just immediately reactivated. And you saw the exact same mechanism during the 2020 pandemic.
Right, when everything shut down again.
Exactly. They couldn't gather in person, so they engineered a virtual festival to maintain that social cohesion until 2021.
But, social utility eventually shifts. Right?
Yeah.
Demographics change. Musical tastes change. A 300-year-old festival can't survive purely by playing Elgar on a loop for, a shrinking demographic of historical purists.
Exactly, and they know that, which is why their strategy relies on a continuous injection of new material.
Right.
If you look at the 2026 archives, they highlight their associate composer scheme.
Right, I saw that.
This brings in contemporary composers like Gavin Higgins in 2025 to write brand new works. By constantly forcing modern living composers to interact with that 1,300-year-old acoustic space, the festival totally avoids becoming a museum exhibit.
It stays relevant.
Yeah, it operates as a living, evolving tradition.
And that concept of a living tradition, layering the new directly on top of the old, it's perfectly mirrored in the physical geography of Gloucester itself.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, the music shows us how the tradition sounds, but the urban planning shows us how the history is literally physically stacked.
The stratigraphy of the city is basically an archaeologist's dream.
Yeah, and the prime example in our sources is St. Mary de Lode Church.
Oh, that's a great line.
It's as the city's oldest parish church, dating back to the 12th century. But it sits directly on top of a Saxon church.
Right.
And that Saxon church sits directly on top of a Roman building. Like, you can literally see the Roman mosaic floor exposed inside the medieval church today.
It's amazing.
It's like a hard drive that just keeps getting overwritten, but the old data is still physically trapped under the new sectors.
That hard drive analogy is actually highly accurate, specifically regarding why this layering happens.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because it isn't a coincidence, and it certainly wasn't driven by, romantic notions of historical preservation. No, it was driven by engineering pragmatism.
Pragmatism.
Yeah.
Not some, deep spiritual connection to the site.
No, pure physics and economics.
Okay, explain that.
Well, when the Roman Empire withdrew from Britain in the early 5th century, they left behind massive stone foundations built on solid engineered ground. And this was often near strategic river crossings, like the River Severn in Gloucester.
Okay.
So, centuries later, when Saxon or Norman builders wanted to erect a heavy stone church, they didn't dig new foundations.
Because that would be too hard.
Right. Moving stone is incredibly expensive and labor-intensive.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So they simply found the solid Roman foundations and built directly on top of them. The Roman mosaic you see today, it wasn't preserved out of respect. It was simply buried because it was a convenient, structurally sound subfloor.
So they were essentially just recycling urban infrastructure.
Exactly.
And you see that layering elsewhere too, like the Eastgate Viewing Chamber.
Yes.
Which is this underground exhibition where you can see the original Roman and medieval gate towers and the city moat. But this is where I actually need to challenge the narrative of the city a little bit.
Go ahead.
So the guides promote this incredibly chaotic juxtaposition of sites.